Chances are, if you're watching this video, you are a young, ambitious man who has plenty of goals, but you always had this issue with discipline where you would start one thing, you would stop for a bit. Maybe you go to the gym. The gym's probably easy for you to be disciplined with, but when it comes to like starting your business, starting meditation, or starting any of these good habits, you may struggle to stay consistent with them. You may think that you like discipline. You may think you just aren't built for it, but the reality is, you aren't having a discipline issue. What you actually have a trauma issue. Let me explain. So the idea of discipline is when our heart doesn't want it, because we know for a fact motivation is like the level 1, discipline is like level 2, and motivation is essentially our heart wanting it desperately in the moment, and our mind is like, yeah, cool, let's do it. Logically you're like, all right, cool, but like emotionally we run it really badly. Discipline is when emotionally we really don't want to do anything, whereas logically we know that we have to do something. The issue with discipline is that your heart doesn't want it, but logically you know you have to do it. There may be some days, even I don't feel like going to the gym, and yet I'll do it. But the issue does come down to when you constantly don't feel like going to the gym. Like, what the hell is this? Like I suddenly go into a rut and I can no longer follow any of my good habits. I can no longer be as productive as I once was. I stop posting content all of a sudden, and that is something even deeper. 99% of the population have actually suffer from this, and this is why I point back to it being a trauma issue. Now, why is it a trauma issue? Well, you have to understand that your heart is obviously running based off emotions, and inside of you, you're not just carrying that version, the adult or teenager version of you. You're also carrying that inner child of you. The heart is so overwhelmed by a lot of these emotions that it is unable to actually comprehend anything else, and it falls into what we call survival mode. That's something we're all pretty familiar with. So now that we are in survival mode, we are just so overwhelmed with a bunch of emotions. How do we actually get out of this? And it is simply speaking to your inner child. Think of it like this, you have a kid, right? And he was once very happy, he'd come to you, play with you and everything. He'd be very jolly. And then you, for some reason, as a parent, saw him get bullied once and you didn't actually go out to support him, How do you think that kid would feel? He wouldn't feel very safe now, would he? He wouldn't feel, or let's say you yell at him for a bit. He may stop expressing himself for a bit. He feels very overwhelmed by these emotions. A kid isn't meant to stay quiet. A kid is meant to be loud, playful, joyful, And so what we have to do is we have to deal with everything that we've dealt with throughout our entire lives, all our emotions, and actually work through them and not justify them. Because most of the time, whenever we go through hardships, we're always thinking about, logically, it made us tougher. Sure, right? That heartbreak that we got from that girl pushed us harder in the gym. Or when our parents yelled at us, it made us tougher kids. Or when we got fired, or when that person said something very mean to us. They might have had a bad day. Logically, we keep justifying all of this bullshit that happens to us. But internally, emotionally, we're like, what the hell? Why did that have to be me? That internal or quote unquote emotional feeling is our inner child begging or just wishing to be understood and just seeking for answers, which we haven't been giving them. And so it is our responsibility that once in a while we go and lay down in our beds or on the floor and just stare at the ceiling. We stare at the ceiling and just try to sink into our thoughts. Once we sink into our thoughts, an instant thought will come to our mind, right? And it could be something like a issue that you had throughout the week. Let's say you spilled your coffee on your shirt and everyone started laughing at you. Or somebody said something to you, Some bullshit like that. And you're going to, rather than justifying it, being like, yeah, no, it's fine, we go through it. Speak to yourself as if you were speaking to your child. You wouldn't say to your child after he got hit by a kid or hit by a bully that, nah, the bully was having a bad day, It's okay, son. You should just learn to understand his feelings. No, shut up. You want to make yourself feel safe. Instead, what you say to yourself, to your younger self once is you didn't deserve that. That was really hard on you. You never really should have gone through something like that. Just keep trying to validate his emotions because he's having to deal with all of these bullshit things that a kid wouldn't understand. See, you as the adult, you would understand everything that's happening with you, but a kid doesn't understand these complex things, these hardships that's happening to him, which is why you have to just sit down and make yourself feel reassured. And once we can at least put this kid to rest, sort of like if you played Five Nights at Freddy's, it's like putting the crying children to rest. It's as simple as that. But when you do put these kids to rest, your heart, which we spoke above here, is no longer in survival mode. It feels like it's actually being heard and understood, and that's when your passion comes out. That's when obsession and ambition comes out. And we spoke about how motivation is level 1, discipline is level 2, and obsession is level 3. Obsession, I can tell you from first-hand experience, in the past, back in January, I was in the biggest rut of my life. I'm not even joking. I was gooning, I was skipping my workouts, I was fat as shit. Like, I got to like 25% body fat. It was horrendous, man. My business was also crashing, and my relationship with everyone was like deteriorating. But when I sat down and went through all of the hardships that happened to my life, I got yelled at as a kid for no reason. I had to go through the passing of my mother. I had to kill my childhood to grow up earlier on. It's all unfair that I had to go through that, and I had been sitting with these emotions undealt with, and that really does add up, especially when it goes unheard. You as a guy, you're probably thinking, oh, I'm tough, man, I don't need to deal with my emotions, that's like white girl shit. Shut up. You're the same guy who probably goons after every gym session, that's who you are. But if you want to stop doing that, if you want to become the person that you want to be, develop that obsession, the business, the mindset, everything that you want, you have to heal that inner child. That is the only way. And so an actionable step you can do literally tonight is to cry. Lay down on your bed, sit down on your chair, whatever it is, just let yourself disassociate for 10-15 minutes. Whatever thought comes up, just imagine you're speaking to that child. Don't justify it. Validate the feelings of your inner child and make him feel heard or seen. You may cry after this, and that is completely fine. If you're alone, even better. You may have to speak to a friend about this, but honestly, at the end of it, you're going to come out of this with a lot more mental clarity and just a sense of feeling like you were heard, as if we struggle to understand everyone else, but if we are struggling to understand ourselves, that's an even bigger issue. So if you can just sit down for a while and just hear out your inner child, that's the best gift you can give. That's the best self-improvement. There's no self-improvement habit that is going to help you as much as this will. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is my first video. I'm really excited to post on this. I will be posting more and more self-improvement, but also workout videos. I'm excited to go see where this goes. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for being here. And this is the part where I have to create a catchy slogan, eh? Man, we'll see you guys next time. For now, do the hard work. This is something that one of my favorite, the guy that I look up to the most, this is his quote. I'll steal it for now. But do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. Wow.